Well, for the first time in over 10 years, we've got ourselves another direct sequel to a Tales game in Tales of Xillia 2. Now, normally in sequels, you expect to see the same characters over again, see them go on a new adventure, maybe see a few new locations, and iterate on the gameplay a bit. But the problem, at least for me, with Tales of Xillia 2 is that they overuse same assets, same monsters, and same gameplay elements way too much. Sure, it's nice to see familiar characters all over again, and see them going on a new adventure with a brand new story, and there are new characters and there are a few new gameplay elements. However, for me, it just seemed like they did a little too much of reusing stuff all over again. Although you are a brand new character, Luger, trying to go on in his own adventure with characters from the original Tales of Xillia to help you along the way. However, do these new elements and this new character and this new story make up for the overuse of old assets in the original game? Well, let's take a look and find out for ourselves.
Anyway, time to wake up and smell reality. Let's begin, shall we?
In Tales of Xillia 2, you play as Luger Kresnik, the younger brother to Julius Kresnik, a well-renowned agent in the Spurious Corporation. As the game starts off, you're trying to train yourself and take tests to become an agent within the company, but right now you are only a cook. You find yourself stuck in the middle of a conflict as you board a train to be a cook, and as you go along, you get caught up in this crazy conspiracy that actually allows you to become an agent and even have to track down your own brother. Not only is your job to find out what's going on with your brother and all these bits of time travel and fractured dimensions, but you're also responsible for taking care of this little girl, Elle. And I have to say, she is absolutely adorable. She's probably my favorite character in this game, if not my favorite character of any Tales game. Not only is her design just super cute, just her little tiny backpack and her little hat she's got going on, but she's also got attitude. Every time she talks back to Luger or other characters, she has a really cool personality, and it makes you really care for her as you go through the game and want to help her reunite with her father. Now, Luger, on the other hand, is a silent protagonist, and in my opinion, that is one of the worst things you can do in an RPG, or in this case, a JRPG. Now, I sort of get the reasoning behind it, because throughout the game, you're given choices during dialogues, and depending on how it plays out, you'll have different answers, and it'll grow your affinity for certain characters, but it still would have been nice to have them voiced. And without giving away too many spoilers, near the end of the game, something is going to be found out, and that's probably another reason why they didn't voice him, but still, it could have been easily remedied with a couple tricks or something along those lines. It was just a little bit inexcusable for me, and I just really don't like when you give JRPG main characters no voice. So in becoming an agent and destroying these fractured dimensions and going through this adventure with the Tales of Xillia characters, you run into a debt along the way. So you're in this train near the beginning of the game, and throughout the adventure in this train, you get injured and somebody has to heal you. And because of this, you incur a huge debt of 20 million gold that you have to pay back throughout the game. And in my opinion, this is one of the worst parts about the game, and it really slows down the story. See, the way the game plays out is you're going to play the main story. You're going to go on a mission. You're either going to rescue or destroy rather a fractured dimension. Maybe you're going to meet a new cast member from the last Tales game, reunite with them, and go on a little mission. But then after you're done with that, you're asked to repay a certain amount of the debt. And as you go through the game, it just gets incrementally higher and higher and higher. And at first it doesn't seem bad. You just go on a few hunting missions and you're able to get the money, or you might even have it just through doing the mission on its own. But as you go through the game, you have to do a ton of missions, or sell a lot of items, or hunt for rare monsters, which in its own right is kind of fun, but it still really slows down the story, because as the game gets further along, it builds a lot of momentum, and you're really excited, like what's going to happen next, and you want to see just how Luger deals with the situation. But then you have to go and stop and collect money and go deal with this, and it's just really annoying. And to me, it just seems like this was their way to pad out the game, because they reused so many assets from the first game. And that's the one thing I want to address here as well. The game has some original areas, like I mentioned. There's a train area, there's a couple areas from Olympias that they show that are kind of new, but for the most part, you go back to Riese and Maxia a lot in this game, like a ridiculous amount. At a certain point, like as you're paying back your debt, you're allowed to unlock and go to different areas, and you just go back to the same areas over and over and over again, because what's happening is these fractured dimensions pop up, and they could be, somewhere in Nia Kara where Mila's from, or it could be in Fenmont where Jude was in the medical academy. And it's just ridiculous that they had to keep using this again and they couldn't add just enough new areas. There are some throughout the game, but to me, it's just not that fun. Because to me, what's great about RPGs is you're going through this big adventure and you're going to these new towns and these new areas, and it's kind of fun to explore and discover what they're all about. But using literally the exact same towns and world from the first game kind of ruins the fun of that, because you know where everything is, you know what to do, and to me it just ruined a lot of it, because for me some of the best parts about an RPG are going to the new towns and finding it all out, and to just basically go back to the same ones over and over just sort of ruined it for me. But as I mentioned with Elle, she is easily my favorite character in this game. As you go throughout the adventure, you learn things about her and Luger get closer, and there's just some heartbreaking moments that make you really feel for her. And then you just have to make some really tough decisions because, especially near the end of the game, you're making some really tough decisions that do impact the end of the game, which is cool because from what I understand there's about 5 different endings. However, as I went through the game there seemed to be only about 3, but there might be more for all I know. Now I'm really ragging on the game. Is there anything good about it? Well, of course, the game's combat is great. Tales games always have great action-oriented combat, and if you played the first Tales game, it's pretty much exactly the same. You can link with characters, and you can't swap them out on the fly though, because you have to pick your party from the town, and then once you go out into the field, you're stuck with those guys. So, unlike in Tales of Xillia, where you could swap out a character mid-battle, and in case they were dying or you wanted to, they fit better with the battle. This time you pick your party of 4, including Luger, so really up your other 3, and you're stuck with them until you come back into town, which I found kind of odd, but it seems to work just fine. One thing that they did add is you have this tool called the Chromatus, and it allows Luger to transform and do some crazy damage. So if you're in a tough boss fight, basically what you want to do is you wait for that meter to build up, you transform, you do a ton of damage, and when you're in this form, you don't take any damage either. So if you're really in a pinch and you think you're about to die, you transform and you're able to do some crazy damage. Not to mention, you do get your super art really early in the game, so you're able to do some crazy damage, especially if you're stuck on a tough boss fight. The other cool thing about Tales of Xillia 2's battle system is that you get to play with characters you didn't get to in the first Xillia, including King Gaius and Muse, who you're forced to play with a few times throughout the game. However, if they're kind of more fitting of the style you like to play, more magic user or just heavy hitter, it's kind of fun to play with these characters since they were actually the final boss or the main enemy in the last game. Another thing about the game is that it's actually really funny. A couple of things that Elle says throughout the game really had me laughing because she's such a little kid, and the things that she has to say to the other characters might throw them for a loop. So she was pretty funny. Not to mention the optional skits throughout the game as you go through the game and you find more characters. It's just pretty funny, some of the stuff they had to say. Not to mention the post-battle kind of victory pose skits. Those are pretty funny. There's actually quite a few unique ones depending on who you have in the party that are really funny, and some of the things that they say are actually quite humorous, and I found myself laughing a lot more than I ever have in any of the other Tales games. So, if nothing else, this is one of the funnier Tales games in the series for sure.
The keys to victory are friendship, power, luck. Wait, luck?
And other than that, I don't really know what else there is to say about Tales of Xillia 2. I mean, it's a Tales game. It's got that same great combat, great character designs, great characters, and it is a brand new story that you're going on this adventure for. But to me, it was a little disappointing that they reused so many assets from the first game, and it kind of takes the fun of exploring out of it since you've been through it all if you've played the first game. However, it does save it a little bit because you make certain choices throughout the game that affect how the ending plays out, as well as having some really cool new characters with Luger and Elle, who happens to be one of my favorite characters in the game and of all of Tales. And I feel like as you play through this game, you're going to get really attached to her as well, and you're going to really feel for her and want to reunite her with her dad throughout the game. So if you're a Tales fan, this one might be a little disappointing for you as well. However, if you don't mind reused monsters, reused towns, a ton of reused assets, then maybe you're okay with it. And the other thing too that I realized is it had a lot of performance issues. Like I would warp into town and it would take up to sometimes up to 10 seconds for an item shop vendor to load. I'd just be sitting there and then it just appears in front of me. So not only does it reuse a lot of assets, I feel like technically it took a step back as far as loading times and things of that nature. However, like I said, it's still a Tales game, it's still fun, cool character designs, fun combat, and exploring's not quite as neat, but the exploring that I got out of it was hunting for the rare monsters, which really give you a lot of money. So that was kind of fun to retread old areas, and depending if you didn't play both Jude and Mila's campaigns, you might actually run into a few new areas that you didn't play in the previous one. Anyways, guys, that is my review for Tales of Xillia 2. I did have fun with it, but just slightly disappointing, and I think from what I've seen of Tales of Xillia, that game is going to deliver. And they just announced today that Tales of Xillia is going to launch in Japan on January 22nd, so I'm hoping maybe next August we'll have the game, or maybe by next fall, because they did mention that they want to have this game come out in the same year as the Japanese release. So anyways, guys, this game's been out for a while now, so if you've played the game, definitely let me know what you think. I know some people really liked it and they really loved doing this kind of payback system and hunting for monsters and things of that nature. And I know others really didn't like it because they reused assets, so I'd love to hear what you have to say. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.